I can skip. I can do I can do 500 skips in like 5 minutes.
Yes.
So 1,000 walks is like.
Yeah. So there you'd benefit.
I'm trying to think. Okay, instead of having a solar at home, I buy a treadmill, and every morning and every evening before I go to bed, I get myself 5 kilowatts.
Yes, it would be good to take certain things off the grid.
Yeah.
Yeah, because remember, your fridge needs to run 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
Your pool pump maybe is running 8 hours a day. Your geyser's running 8 to 16 hours a day. So when you aren't exercising, those things won't be able to run. But your TV is like that. If you wanna, before you watch TV, say, I'll set a target for myself. I need to
Yeah.
exercise 30 minutes in order to watch 30 minutes worth of TV. You get on your treadmill, you exercise, you generate power, and then you can power up your TV. But I wouldn't advise it in terms of trying to take your whole house off a base load measure of electricity to kinetic energy.
Scott, in a small apartment, you wouldn't?
It's possible. So before we go down the mathematical rabbit hole here, I mean, I get it. Actually, there are good questions because it gives you a practical scope as to, okay, what can we do
You know what I mean?
in the household. I
Yeah.
get it. But, you know, I want to bring it back a little bit to yourself in the sense of, like, at what point did you decide, you know, I mean, you were quite young already when you were building things in school, that you're going to be a climate warrior, you know, like a tech warrior. Because I'll give you from my perspective. So I'm a little bit of an optimist. Like, I also kind of assume, many times wrongly so, but I often assume that people are generally good. That the world doesn't work.
Why are you looking at me when you said people are generally
But I'm
good?
not naive enough to think the world actually works like that. I know it
Yes.
does.
Yeah.
So, like, but the issue is we have the technology today in order to run a very clean society for the most part. And there's lots of reasons why that isn't the case, and that I would suggest that the reason that is the case because of people, and you know the companies that are in existence, and they have their vested interest in keeping things the way they are. I get that.
Yeah.
And I understand that you do want to preserve your income, but I mean there is a tipping point where the better the good for the planet becomes more. It's better for you than the profit.
Yes.
You know, even though we're talking about a free technology, I mean, we could have had electric cars free, quote unquote, long ago. We didn't have to go the oil route for cars. We could have gone another route. So at what point, if I'm looking now at the ideal society moving forward, I would like to see clean energy. I would like to see a much cleaner world, and it's possible to do it now. So my question to you is, these technologies, I mean, you've proven they work. They're in the market, but you're leaning back into my question earlier in the sense of why haven't they been implemented everywhere? And it's not just a question for your specific technologies. I'm talking more general social.
In renewable energies.
You know, why? Where's your thinking in the space? Are you optimistic like that for your company, or is it more like, well, you're going to carve out the space you can with those who care, but the planet itself is probably not going to take it up?
So a point that isn't really spoken about in terms of renewable energy and why we aren't there yet is we have a lot of generation capacity, a lot of clean technology that can generate the power. But where we lack is transmission and storage. So the current grids aren't designed to store the renewable energy or transmit it. So we need to then get an investment in transmission and storage, and that would be, and this is at large scale, governments, private sectors, individuals, where the problem isn't creating the energy, but the problem is where can we keep it for a later use, and we shouldn't lose it, you know? So that's the biggest pay point. Even if you look at your Teslas and your electric vehicles, they struggle with their battery capacity. There's explosions and stuff like that. We need to, and that's the responsibility lies on us as innovators. We need to come up with a safe, practical, affordable storage system. Most important before transmission, storage system.
Are you exploring battery technology at all? Or?
We are looking at battery technology. We looked at it, but and then when you look at your lithium, for you to get lithium for R&D is very, very expensive right now. So that's the biggest pay point.
What are we currently using for storage?
We're using batteries. Also power banks. But again, the lifespan isn't ideal versus the equipment for it. And this is on our side, where our frames are lifetime in terms of our gym equipment. And then we tell you can have around 20 years with our motors. but then our batteries, our storage capacity is at 4 years. You see, so in that 20 years, you need to at least go 5 times to replace your battery. So that's the people's biggest, and they're very expensive. So that's the biggest
also
pain point.
generally, like, I'm not suggesting, cut off legacy tech and we just do renewable. I'm suggesting that there's going to be a combination, to your point, in terms of storage. But I mean, I would like to see a percentage
Increase. Yeah,
and I think we're in a space where we could actually increase that quite a lot.
definitely.
So I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of
How much of the batteries and the motors and the stuff that's used to build these things, how much of it is renewable?
Oh, that's another good question, and very little of it is renewable. That's the problem also. So we use
So we're solving renewable with non-renewable.
with non-renewable options. We're not 3D printing components. We're using metal factories. We
Yeah.
must, so we harm the environment trying to fix
Save
the
the
environment.
environment.
Exactly. Also mining
Lord.
of the lithium. If you just go on any social media platform and look at the DRC, how it is, the conditions there. Those are horrible conditions for human beings to be in, and for the whole aim of getting the lithium to make the world a better place.
cobalt.
Yes, but these children who are dying, they're mining with their bare hands. That shouldn't be a mining condition for anybody. And these are the things that are happening now. Because also, again, we as the innovators, we want to pay a low price to get the minerals.
Yeah.
We want to pay them a fraction of what they're supposed to get for the minerals in order for us to have a larger R&D scope and for us to go further in R&D. So we don't want to take the risk of paying the fair price for the lithium.
Do we have a solution there?
We need to, like you said, we need to honestly be honest people. Sometimes it just goes down to you as an individual of being honest at fair value, giving each person.
So we can save this planet.
We can. I'm very optimistic, like he says. I'm very optimistic we can. And I'll make an analogy, right?
Right.
If, let's say, you get a hunter, right?
Yeah.
And you want his deer fur, the fur for his deer. And then in exchange, you give him the Mona Lisa painting.
Hey.
It's worth a lot of money,
Yeah.
but to him it means nothing because it
Right.
won't help him get more for tomorrow. But instead, if you give him a gun to enable to hunt for more fur, it helps uplift him. And
Yeah.
the same thing it happens in terms of, and that same analogy, I think we should apply it in terms of the extraction of the raw materials for us to create a better future.
Okay.
Let's pay fair value in terms of offering equipment that's green and that's safe and training them to mine the stuff in a proper way versus us giving them a fish to eat today and not teaching them how to fish. Because with the equipment, they have a larger scale of market and they can scale up versus with their hand. At certain points, you can no longer mine with your hand. You get to a standpoint. And once you're at that standpoint, what happens then?
That's a tall order, though. I mean, capitalism doesn't care.
Well, yeah, but market is a tough one. So you have to, I mean, talking about economic theory here, it's like, it's like, even in my sense, in terms of talking about a cleaner future, I mean, technology, clean technology, it's not technically clean if you go back far enough. It's, you get to the mining problems, you get to
the shipping,
Yeah,
airplanes,
exactly.
trucks, bring it to you.
But,
It's a problem.
So the point is, when you're just thinking about the end point of that technology and what it does, and it, it's how it works, what it puts back into the atmosphere. Yeah, you can get that quite clean. We have the technology to do that today, but the supply line to get to that particular
The
product,
value chain is rotten.
the supply line
The
is
product
rotten all
is
the way.
clean.
It's clean, exactly.
So the product is rotten.
Yeah, and I hope I don't
like
offend
Your phone's
anyone.
rotten.
Like with vegans, for example, right?
Yeah.
Especially, and I have the conversation with them when I travel abroad. The products that they're eating come from Africa, America, and for you to get proper avos, you need to kill insects, pests that live and breathe and survive on that. And then you need to get trucks and planes to ship it to the countries for the vegans to then have.
You guys are painting a
It's
very
supply
scary
line,
picture
supply
here.
line,
So we
yeah.
can't save the planet without killing it.
We can if we intend to do better, if we're willing to reduce the amount of profit we take home.
There's a movement. It's not a movement. It's just an economic idea in terms of the true cost of things, like your true cost of your phone.
Right.
I mean, My Samsung is far more honest than your phone, but
It is. That's why I'm also on Samsung. Far more honest.